As was mentioned, I'm the head of our digital channels group at Regions Bank, and and that's my day job. But another big element of what I do is oh, great, the clicker. Another big element of what I do at the bank is to work on our cross-channel strategy and how we execute on it, and that's across all channels. So I think I'm in the big data track because I'm going to talk a little bit about data, but first I'm going to talk about channels. So what I'm going to try to do over the next few minutes is to really break this presentation up into three separate areas. First, to talk about what we know about customer channel preferences. Secondly, to talk about what some of the key considerations are in building an effective cross-channel architecture. And then third, to talk a little bit about the data. Like Richard, I'm going to be really candid and honest about what's worked and what's not worked for us. We don't have this right, but it is something that we're passionate about, trying to get the cross-channel experience right. We firmly believe that'll be the real differentiator in the marketplace. So let's review channel preferences. One of the things that we know is that if you look over a long enough period of time, that retail banking transactions have increased dramatically. And what we haven't seen is a lot or a significant amount of channel displacement. So what this chart shows, recognize it's a little hard to see, is, and this is a forecast that goes through 2019, but it shows obviously a great increase in the number of overall retail banking interactions, with the dark blue on the bottom of the slide showing a declining to flattening level of branch interactions, sort of somewhat flat ATM interactions, and then growing interaction levels in all other channels. But what we're not seeing is any significant displacement. In other words, the more choices that you give customers to interact with your institution, the more they're going to take advantage of. We believe it's reasonable to expect that as we can introduce new technologies and new ways of allowing our customers to interact with the bank, that the nature of the channel interactions will change. We believe that that's the case with the branch, but what we're trying not to do is think about channels in isolation of one another. Next few slides, I'm going to walk you through a few observations about customer preferences. So what this slide represents is that there is obviously, for a lot of core banking transactions, there's a preference for the web channel. The exceptions you see on this slide are direct support from a banking representative or the application for a loan. While we believe that will change over time, that's what we're observing today. And I can tell you, while this is data compiled over many respondents to a large survey, this is what we observe at Regions. What we see very little of is customers exclusively using one channel. In other words, we look at channel interaction velocity, and we segment our customer base based upon their channel preference. But what we very rarely observe is somebody using a single channel exclusively. What this slide illustrates is there's a difference, particularly in the virtual channels. In our case, this would really primarily be online and mobile, between those customers who actually use those virtual channels for certain transaction or interaction types, and those that say that those channels are preferred. And obviously the biggest gaps that you see are on receiving an account alert, the actual researching of available products and services, and then the last two, not coincidentally, support from a banking representative and applying for a loan. Convenience remains the primary focus, our primary attribute, if you will, the reason why people prefer or demonstrate a preference for virtual or electronic channels. We believe, however, that reports around the demise or the decline of the branch are incredibly overhyped. This is consistent with the way we're thinking about how we manage our business on a cross-channel basis. So while, based upon the chart that I showed you a few moments ago, while the transaction volumes are flat to declining in the branch, customers consistently demonstrate that is their primary channel for most conversion activities. What that doesn't mean is that we're not every year originating more and more deposit and loan products online. What it does say is that the majority of those origination activities ultimately get closed in the branch. We also know, like I'm sure many of you do, based upon both syndicated data as well as the segmentation work that we've done on our own customer base, that those customers that are highly digitally engaged with us are our most valuable customers. Obviously, we've got a statement here from Intuit Financial Services that suggests, again, on a composite basis, that those customers that are more digitally engaged are 61% more profitable than those customers that are offline. In other words, those that don't engage through the digital channels. We definitely observe something similar when we look at our own data. And what we know is those customers that are engaged with us through digital channels on an active basis contribute more revenue, they're more profitable, they generally skew to a higher affluence level, they are less likely to attrite, and they interact and transact with us more. So what does all this mean? I want to draw a few conclusions here. They're by no means absolute, but it's just what we observe and wanted to draw them out because it's what influences our strategy. While consumers definitely cite a preference for digital channels, most of the product, and they do a lot of product shopping, most of the majority still buy in the branch. We don't see digital channels displacing activity or displacing traditional channels as much as we see them complementing one another. But we do believe that digital plays the most important role in creating a holistic customer experience. Just a few slides to underscore that. What comes through loud and clear, again, based upon our own experience as well as all the research out there that we've reviewed, is that customers want to engage with us not on our terms, but on theirs. When we look at how we manage the overall customer experience, we also know that customer expectations are evolving based upon the quality of the customer experience that can be delivered by other industries, other service providers, and we're constantly being held to those new, evolving, higher standards. So what does all this mean when we start talking about cross-channel architecture? Because I think that can be sort of an empty phrase. What it means for us is that consumers, not the channels, come first. So our strategy is influenced based upon what we observe from our customers and how they want to interact with the bank, both now and what expectations they have in the future. It also, from a practical standpoint, changes the way we think about investment. So historically, regions, like I'm sure many of you have looked at the investment that you make in channels on a largely siloed basis. So your operating budget and your capital budget exercises that you go through every year are separate activities for each channel. One of the things that we've really focused on is trying to sort of break that paradigm and plan holistically, which means we're going to have to make some significant substantive investments in creating a cross-channel infrastructure that allows us to deliver a better customer experience. Much easier said than done when you're working against years and years of doing things in a certain way. We also know that we need to shift our focus from a discrete look or a specific look at transactions and services to one that's more focused on solving customer problems and addressing any dead ends in a customer experience. That could be a dead end when it comes to originating a deposit or a loan account, or it could be a dead end when addressing a customer service issue. We also believe as I'm sure many of you do, and as it's demonstrated by the amount of time in this conference we're spending talking about it, that development of a much greater level of digital intelligence is a key criteria for success. We also believe, however, that part of a good cross-channel strategy and an overall architecture is based and evolves around the customer, but takes advantages of those attributes in each channel that are unique to that channel. What this chart really attempts to do is just call out some of the unique attributes, some of the things that we can do in specific channels that perhaps we can't do in others. It's not exhaustive, not meant to be exhaustive, but it is meant to be representative. So part of what drives our strategy is to find the balance for specific types of interactions amongst and across all these channels. We also believe, again, sort of as a driving principle, that from a customer standpoint, that we need to allow a customer to start or engage with us in any channel, but ultimately convert in another channel. And that's what this chart is intended to demonstrate. I borrowed this from a partner that we have in the bank, Lead Fusion, who's also one of the sponsors of our conference. And we work with Lead Fusion, among other things, to deploy interactive experiences on our website that allow our customers to have a better experience when they're shopping, but ultimately have the goal of driving that customer to an interaction with a call center agent or somebody in a branch. Another real driving principle is that we don't believe that a cross-channel strategy, a cross-channel architecture is about driving customers to a lower cost channel. And that may seem like a simple point, but I believe it's an important one. I think that lower costs are driven ultimately by delivering a better customer experience, one that, as this last bullet indicates, improves the rate at which we acquire customers, improves or reduces the rate of attrition, and helps us do a better job of cross-selling. But ultimately, that cross-channel strategy has to be focused on the relevance of the customer experience. And that's really what this slide is intended to demonstrate. So that's a little bit about what we observe in terms of customer channel preferences, and a little bit about what the driving principles are behind an effective cross-channel architecture. So now let's get to the data portion. One of the things that we know as we've worked to construct our own cross-channel strategy is that we need to do a good job of aligning customer data with actual customer behavior. And what that means, and what this chart is intended to illustrate, is really focusing in on combining what we know about the customer, what their known customer profile is, with customer behavior, appending the profile, so to speak, making them contiguous, combining anonymous behavioral attributes with known customer data to influence how and in what manner we deliver offers, as we spoke about a moment ago, and how we deliver those offers within specific channels. One of the challenges that we have, obviously, is that there are an endless number of permutations for how channels might interact with one another. And this is just a feeble attempt to try to demonstrate just a few of those permutations. We know that one of the biggest problems in creating an effective cross-channel architecture is that we generate a lot of data. And one of the big issues that we have, obviously, is that we have so much data, and it's across it's in so many different silos and so many different areas, that one of the biggest jobs is culling through and sifting through that data to determine what's most effective. And that's really what what this slide is intended to demonstrate, is that the confusion over how to manage the data increases the more data that you have, and that the challenge is trying to strike a balance between using, being on a quest to use all available data sources and effectively finding those that are the most effective. So one of the frameworks that we've used to try to think through how we're building our own channel architecture is to make a distinction between paid, owned, and earned media. Paid media would obviously be those mediums through which we are actually paying to, paying a third party to do traditional advertising, to do both digital and traditional messaging. Owned media would be the sites that we control, the manner in which we manage search, and the level of understanding we have about our customers. And then earned media is obviously more focused on the social aspects, how customers engage with us, and what kind of feedback they provide through us, largely through social channels. One of the biggest challenges we have as we've sought to combine data across channels is the differential in timing and the timeliness of data. And we believe one of the primary focus areas that is a differentiator is the extent to which we can get closer to true real-time data. Another thing I think that is a common theme that you've seen across a variety of presentations over the last day and a half is that you've got the normal 80-20 rule. 80% of your value is going to be driven out of 20% of your data. One of the things that Regions has done, one of the big lessons learned, is that trying to solve the data issues, all the dilemmas that I've talked about, by engaging in an enterprise-wide data warehouse project, often becomes a big boil the ocean exercise. Years and years of effort with somewhat mixed results. We think it's better to take a much more targeted approach. So one of the things that we're doing, as an example, is creating what we're calling an interaction repository. So we've defined those levels of those data elements, those interactions events that we believe are the most important, and we've created basically a hub, we call it a 360 hub, but basically it's a place where we can house discrete interaction data across all channels, and then distribute it to a variety of mediums. The primary of which is a marketing data store that we use to drive a lot of our campaign activity. Data paralysis is obviously a big issue, and part of the exercise and the pain that we've gone through, and the pain, quite frankly, that we've gone through, is making sure that we don't get stuck and wallow in having too much data, and figuring out what it means to create an intelligent digital profile of our customers, both our existing customers and prospects. As in most cases, this is a journey. This is not a once and done effort. It is a permanent program of work that we're engaged in. I would suggest, based upon my own personal experience, plus talking with many of you about some of the similar challenges that you've faced, is that we're somewhere collectively as an industry, probably about in the middle of this chart, in terms of engaging with our customers across channels based upon based upon what we know about our customers, which is in the lower left-hand corner here. What products do they have with us? What do we know about them personally based upon the relationship with the bank? And we've evolved to creating an approach or a series of approaches, a series of tools and capabilities that allow us to provide next best offers, to drive offers based upon propensity to buy models. And that's great, and as we've talked about, some of those are effective, some of them aren't. But that's sort of the general evolution that I see across the industry. Where we need to be, however, is getting to a point where we combine customer knowledge to behavior triggers across all media channels, paid, owned, and earned, to more proactively promote products. So what that means, again, at least in terms of the way that we think about it, is creating that contiguous customer profile that matches behavioral data with known customer profile data, and then taking that contiguous profile and doing something with it. And that's really what this slide is intended to demonstrate. It is an iterative, stepwise process that combines each of those elements and ultimately results in being better positioned to deliver the right kind of offer in the right channel, to cross-sell across channels, and to upsell where appropriate. One of the things, this is not easy work. I'm sure that we have shared common experiences as we've all sought to address the problems of how to effectively engage our customers across channels. When I was thinking about what to talk about in this presentation, and considering the fact that I was talking primarily to digital professionals, one of the things I thought would be most important to underscore is that most of our jobs, most of the people in this room that are on the industry side, as well as those strategic vendors that we partner with, are really focused on maximizing our digital transactions. And we spend 90% of our day focused on that. If I've learned one single thing over the last couple of years is that represents only a portion of what it takes to be successful in a current retail banking environment. I really have to effectively partner across the bank, across channels, so that we can create a capability to make strategic investments across channels that allow a customer to, again, engage with us in one channel and continue to engage with us in other channels. And that's always much easier said than done, but it is something that I believe is absolutely critical. One of the things that Regions has done to try to break down the silos that I described earlier is put all channels of distribution under common management, and to structurally work to develop routines where we plan and budget for investments that we're making in the channels, not in isolation, but together as a team. And part of that involves making trade-offs, subordinating pet projects to things that ultimately will be big, important infrastructure investments that allow us to better serve our customers. And part of going through that exercise is making sure that we adhere to the kind of framework that is described here, making sure that we drive technology investments and capabilities across channels in ways that are measurable, scalable, and ultimately result in a better ability to target our customers. One of the things that was discussed in the last presentation is the difference between structured and unstructured data. When you're talking about managing an effective cross-channel customer experience, I would entirely concur and agree that 90% of what you're dealing with is unstructured data, which is why normal approaches to just mining the data on a channel-by-channel basis and looking for correlations aren't sufficient. I'm not sure why I put this slide in here, other than I like the image. The words don't really go, but I really like this picture. So, but it really underscores the point that I was just trying to make. Really, this is about driving an intersection between channels, data, and technology to get to a better 360-degree view of our customers. Not only our customers, but our prospects as well. We also believe that those financial institutions, we hope we're one of them, that invest in trying to innovate in this area are going to be the winners when all is said and done. What that means is that there's a lot of trial and error. As Richard mentioned, probably some of the most important things that we can share with one another are those things that went wrong, those things that didn't work. And we are sort of engaged at Regions in a quest to make sure that we don't repeat our past mistakes. And part of what we've engaged in, like many of you, is in believing that the answer is in building an enterprise data warehouse that'll be the answer to all of our problems. As long as the data is all in one place, we'll be fine. And that for us, as I'm sure for many of you, has not been the case. But we continue on the quest, and I will tell you, if I say nothing else that's important here, is to make an appeal to you guys as channel professionals, primarily in the digital space, to not think of your jobs, your roles, about delivering only the best customer experience in purely those digital channels, because that's not what your customer expectations are, and that's not going to result in the best customer experience. And that's it. Take any questions.